Gex is a platform game that was developed by Crystal Dynamics. It originally started off life on the Panasonic 3DO in 1995 and would be ported to the PlayStation, Sega Saturn and Windows PC sometime later. It sees you take on the role of a talkative lizard-type character with his own quirky quips, one-liners and just unusual style of humour as you traverse through many different levels that are based off of being dragged into like a TV set. So technically you're playing through the eyes of a television in many ways. Now, with it being a side-scrolling platformer, it has all of the typical elements that you would see in games such as like the Super Mario, Sonic the Hedgehog and games of a similar calibre, and your goal is literally to reach the end while defeating enemies, collecting items and being presented with the many challenges that you'll face along the way. But you also have to be mindful of the various traps and obstacles that lie in wait, as they will take you out very, very quickly. So your goal is literally to traverse like the world map, where it'll take you to all of the levels within the different worlds that you'll enter into, and you have to complete all of the objectives and defeat each of the bosses in order to win or pretty much progress throughout the story, to complete everything that the game has to offer.
You cut up his brain, you bloody baboon!
Who opened the can of whoop-ass? Hey, look! SNL!
Now, for its time, the game was met with much praise, especially with the likes of the 3DO version, although the other ports with the likes of the PlayStation and Saturn and even the Windows PC did have mixed reviews, but was still considered quite a popular game that took a lot of what was popular with other games in a similar calibre like I mentioned, but added something a little bit different. And it was seen as a very popular entry during 1995, even to a point that it was voted the best game of the year on the Panasonic 3DO itself. And obviously the character ended up being popular enough that Gex would see two later sequels on the PlayStation, but would move away from the 2D side-scrolling visuals to go more 3D. They would play like games such as Super Mario 64, Crash Bandicoot, Croc, to name but a few, where you had a lot more functionality in terms of your environments and your overall areas that you could explore. It's a decent game, but at the same time it's quite tough. Sometimes it's not always obvious from the get-go as to what to do in some of the levels in order to complete the objectives, and you'll find yourself having to play the game many times and making many mistakes along the way until you figure things out. But once you get familiar with it, it is a solid platformer, but although a tough one. And while the game is considered to be popular, I wouldn't necessarily say it's for everybody, because Gex's character can be an acquired taste, in fairness. But like I said, obviously it was popular enough that it garnered multiple sequels later on, but so much so even to a point that the original game, in many cases, especially on the PlayStation, can often be seen as overlooked by many, as people would favour the later sequels over the original game. But at least the series did offer something for different player types, or who was interested in playing them. But with that being said, it is an interesting title. While not the best platformer on the system, it definitely took a lot of inspiration from its peers, and for that reason alone, it is worth a look, just to experience it in all its glory. But I'd love to know your thoughts of the original Gex for the PlayStation. What did you think of it overall? Did you enjoy the quirky aspects of it, being able to climb on walls and all of the unusual enemies and hurdles that you face? Or did you find it just frustrating and just annoying at times? I'd love to hear whatever stories you do have of it, so be sure to share it down in the comments below. And if you would like to see more content around other types of quirky side-scrolling platformers like this that were also released on the PlayStation back in the day, then you can check out this playlist on screen to see more of those games in action. And as always, keep those gaming memories alive.